Oh snap, we're back with the Marvel Snap video, as today is the beginning of a new series on this channel. Every Wednesday we will go over the card release that happened on Tuesday, and I'll tell you, is it worth your keys, the gambas, all that shit? Because we know it can be, even if you have several keys, you can completely miss on the spotlight system, and it can be really frustrating. And you know, you only got so many keys available. So I'm gonna try to implement a series on this channel in which every Wednesday I upload a video talking about the new card release and whether I believe it's worth purchasing or not. And I dive deep into the card and let you know what combinations there are for it and what sort of deck brews you can expect, to essentially stem from the card itself. The reason why I'm doing this instead of just like actually uploading a video with a card is because the timing for card releases for me specifically as a European is not really ideal for content creation. Like, I could just get up early in the morning and start trying out a bunch of different decks and record a video, but I'd rather get the video content from my streams. That way I could be more efficient. And the thing is, the new cards are released at 8 p.m. Central European time, which is towards the end of my stream. So unless I give you guys a super rushed version of a deck with the card, I'm generally not very happy with the content that comes out throughout this approach. So I'm like, you know what? We ramble about the card instead. I'm gonna dive deep, and I'm gonna give you guys my first impressions on the card, what I think about it, and whether it's worth your money or not. So let's discuss War Machine. War Machine is a 4 energy, 6 power card that I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have heard about, because I think this is like one of the most overhyped cards in Marvel Snap history. I'm not saying it's bad, but I do think that it was a little bit overhyped in that sense, because I don't know, people are talking about it as if this thing was going to break the metagame. And I don't, like, TLDR, I don't think that's going to be the case, but I do think this card is a good card and will have quite a bit to offer. So let me actually explain why I've reached this conclusion. So first of all, what is this? 4 energy, 6 power. On reveal, until the end of the next turn, nothing can stop you from playing cards anywhere. This is a card that people were very excited about because it allows you to play into essentially any location that you wouldn't be able to play to, like for example the Big House or Sanctum Sanctorum, etc, etc. You can play into Storm's Flooded Lane, you can play this into a Goose location, you can play this into Professor X's shutdown location as well. War Machine does not care. His animation will spawn like this red lights on all 3 locations, and you can play anything, anywhere, as long as you got the energy for it. You gotta clarify on this. It's not just like, oh, you can just vomit out your entire hand. No, you still have to play energy to play cards, right? But anything else preventing you from playing them is no longer a thing during that turn. And there are some relevant combos that come into play here. I have a hair in my mouth because I have a dog and he sheds like crazy, and this happens often. And I literally woke up like 15 minutes ago before recording this video, because I'm recording this early in the morning. So yeah, bear with me because I look tired. That's the case. So yeah, that is War Machine. So first of all, things that come to mind are the likes of Goose and Storm. Storm can flood a location, and then next turn is the last turn that cards can be played there. It becomes the flooded, and cards cannot be played there anymore. Goose prevents cards that cause 4, 5, or 6 to be played on its location. War Machine can bypass these limitations and allow you to develop cards into it nonetheless. So you could design a deck with Goose and Storm that is essentially limiting where their opponent can play their cards, and then you drop War Machine on turn 5 and you just play whatever you want to play, wherever you want to play it, and that should give you the edge over the opponent. That's a theory behind the Lockdown deck. The problem is, Lockdown War Machine is not going to be very good for at least a few days, and the reason why that is the case is very simple. People are playing War Machine a lot. This card was extremely hyped, and a lot of people are getting it. And the problem is, it's as if Annihilus was the card, right? If you run into a bunch of War Machine mirrors, what's gonna happen is you're playing Goose and Storm, and they're effectively 2 energy, 3 energy, 2 power cards, because your opponent's gonna be able to play War Machine as well and get into the locations that you've locked out. So it's kind of counterproductive. And something that I really want to bury early on in this explanation is that no, War Machine does not combine well with Professor X. People think that this is like a good combination, but once you use your head for like a second, you realize that that's not the case. Professor X has an ongoing effect of logging down this location. But the problem is Professor X is 5 energy. So unless you incorporate stuff like Ravona and you're able to play Professor X on turn 4, or you have magic and you extend the game 1 turn, the curve just doesn't work because you have to play Professor X on 5, and then what are you gonna do? Play War Machine on 6 and then end the game, right? Like, you need something else in order to enable this sort of combo, and I think it's already like very, very like a bad idea because of that. On top of that, it's especially a bad idea now in general to play Professor X because you're gonna be running into War Machines, and if you play Professor X on 5, they're gonna play War Machine on 5, and you're just gonna be paying 5 energy for 1 power. So be mindful of that, you know, like, keep in mind that timing matters. In a game like Marvel Snap, timing matters. What other people are playing, what is popular is important. It's really important for you to know this because, you know, you can avoid yourself some massive pain. And that's something that could be, I feel like a lot of people are going to be walking into this. They're going to be playing War Machine and they're going, oh man, I'm going to lock down my opponent. It's like, oh wait, I'm just running into other War Machine decks. And I'm getting my ass kicked every time. So lock down War Machine as an option right now. I feel like it's hard to evaluate because it's just a horrible environment for it. We have to wait for the hype to die down a little bit, and then we can experiment with these. We can experiment properly. I mean, you can play this now if you want. Nobody's stopping you. But I think that in order for us to get like good intel out of how potentially like useful this archetype can be, we need for War Machine to not be absolutely everywhere, I think, in order to properly test it. So, but that isn't a direction you can take War Machine in. That is not what we've been seeing out of War Machine, though. Like, what's been successful so far. What's been successful so far is combining War Machine with Hope Summers. For the simple reason that if you play Hope Summers and you develop War Machine on turn 5 onto her lane, you have 7 energy on turn 6, which allows you to play Infinite and Ebony Maw. A total of 27 points spread out across 2 different locations, most of the points in one, quite a considerable boost on the other, right? And you can literally play them anywhere. This as a combo is strong, but it's not the strongest thing I've ever seen. Because if you compare this, let's say you compare this to High Evolutionary, right? With She-Hulk and Infinite, right? With Hope Summers, High Evolutionary can do the same. They can develop something on turn 4 to essentially gain 1 extra energy. Then they carry over that energy, so that's 6 energy on turn 5. They don't do anything. Sunspot soaks up the power, goes up to 6 power, or just increases to 6 power, and then you can play Infinite plus She-Hulk on turn 6, which is a total of 30 points. So more points than the War Machine combo. And the War Machine 6 points are also being soaked onto Sunspot as well. So it's not, you're actually getting more points out of the She-Hulk Infinite combo than you are with War Machine on Hope onto Infinite and Maw. The difference is you're not really vulnerable to Killmonger killing off your Sunspot. And you're also, you don't require to, you require like less pieces, and I feel like it's more of a reliable curve to do this than to do the other thing. I mean, it's debatable, right? But ultimately, I think the combo is strong, but it's not the craziest thing we've ever seen. I think Thanos decks are still going to be effectively better than War Machine decks, and I'm not like incredibly impressed. I think the card is going to be decent in that kind of shell with this kind of like setup, but I think War Machine is also going to really thrive as a tech card. If Lockdown ever gets popular, we have a dedicated counter now. And I also am excited to see how like Lockdown decks with War Machine into Goose and Storm are going to look like, and how good they're ultimately going to be as well. But what we're going to see with War Machine now, a shell that you're going to be looking at a lot, are Zabu-oriented decks with Black Knight. Though it doesn't have to be like this, bro. Like it can be different. But basically, something that we're seeing quite a bit is a Black Knight deck with Giganto and Infinite at the high end, and then you have discard cards, you know, like Blade and Lady Sif that you play on curve. Some variations run Dracula, though some others will play Ghost Rider, and they'll play Lady Sif, which I can't find, and the likes of Blade, who should be right here. I got my Wesley Snipe Blade. There we go. And you have essentially what is a Zabula, like a Black Knight discard mid-range deck with the ability to, and obviously Hope Summers, with the ability to dump a lot of power, a lot of points on turn 6, but also a big body discard deck that is effectively more consistent. Because if you don't have the Ghost Rider, if you weren't able to discard the Infinite, you can always just develop the War Machine onto Hope Summers and drop that there. I've also seen version of decks with War Machine that instead focus on using Dracula and dumping. So what I mean by this is they develop Dracula, right? And then most of the cards here are just like a bunch of 1-drops, essentially. Like you have a bunch of 1-drops here, like, you know, Ant-Man, or I don't, like there's a bunch of different options, right? Like I have to look more into this, but your curve is extremely low, and then you play stuff like Infinite into Destroyer. You have Armor and Cosmo, right? And you have like a Dracula dump sort of deck that utilizes, you can also play Zero, and like you can definitely play Zero in a deck like this. But the idea is we have a very low curve, and then we dump that curve, and we can discard with Dracula into either Infinite or Destroyer, or we can play War Machine into Infinite, Ebony Maw if we play War Machine onto Hope Summers. Like, these are the decks that are really thriving right now with the card. They vary in the sense of like the approach, right? Like that's what people are trying to figure out right now. It's been less than a day, right? As I've uploaded this, it's been more than a day, but you know, I'm recording this in the morning, and people are still trying to figure out. I'm not particularly excited for these decks because you know, it just, I mean, I will venture into it myself for sure. But I've been having a lot of fun with another card, like Cannonball. I've been addicted to that card. So, you know, just War Machine utilized in a shell like this is not as exciting for me as designing a deck with Storm and Goose and War Machine is, if that makes any sense. So I'm personally more excited for, you know, when War Machine is not everywhere on the ladder, and playing the likes of Storm and Goose can be actually viable again, right? Which again will happen. Like right now, it's just a matter of like popularity be through the roof. But ultimately, if you ask me, should I get War Machine? I think War Machine will be a good card. I think War Machine will be in some shape or form meta defining. I don't think it is the strongest card that we've gotten in this season so far by any means. And I do think it is significantly overhyped as a card, but it is definitely playable. It definitely opens up some really cool like endgame scenarios, and it does also open the doors for some really wacky deck building in the future. Like something that I'm really excited to do is not only combine War Machine with the likes of Goose and Storm, right? It's not just that, baby. Like I want to run Goose, I want to run Storm, and I want to play your boy Legion. Because what you can do is you can turn 3 Storm, right? Then you can War Machine, and then you play Legion into the Flood, essentially denying turn 6 from happening. The problem with this strategy is guess what the best counter is? Turn 5 War Machine, aka literally what everybody's doing right now. So, now the best timing, now the best moment. But once we get beyond that, like it's gonna be fun to explore that. So yeah, right now I would rate the card, if I have to put like a number to it, I'd give it like a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's gonna be good. It's definitely playable. It may end up being better than I'm saying right now. Like it may, like this like Ebony Maw Infinite Endgame may end up being like, somebody may be able to figure out how to make it super consistent in a deck that makes sense, and it turns out to be like a top tier threat. I don't ever see something like this overtaking the likes of Thanos as in the meta listings, but it will definitely be I think it's definitely going to be a worthy card to purchase nonetheless. If it's not for the now, it's for the future. Like, it's a very, very powerful effect that is only going to get better over time. And that's where I'm going to end this video at. You know, let's not, you know, make it way too long. We've been at it for 15 minutes. I think it's a proper length for like a rambly video like this. Let me know what you guys think about War Machine. Are you guys excited to see War Machine decks on the channel? If there's like a lot of hype around that, I can definitely prioritize it and try to brew something. I'll definitely like work on the card today on stream and see if I can come up with like a spicy brew. But I really wanted to give you guys like my first impressions on the card and what you can expect out of it, and whether it's worth to get or not. So let me know if you guys think this is a good series idea, because this is what I intend on doing every Wednesday when a new card comes out. I'll try to break it down and you know, give you guys my first impressions on it. And yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily Marvel Snap content. Hope you enjoyed the video. Not the games, no games today, but games tomorrow. I promise. I'll see you then.